Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. I'm your host, and today we're putting on our hard hats to draft the ultimate engineering blueprints for your Solana application. In this explainer, we're diving into a critical part of our deploying on Solana track. Specifically, we're tackling choosing the right network for your deployment. So grab your coffee, or, maybe something a little stronger, because today is all about making those really smart, calculated choices before you hit that big red deploy button. Okay, picture this. You've built your code, it runs flawlessly on your local machine, and you are feeling like an absolute 10x developer. But then, reality hits. You face the incredibly anxiety-inducing decision of actually choosing a network to deploy on. Because, let's be totally honest here, nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to accidentally burn real SOL on untested bugs, right? I mean, it's literally like testing a brand new jet engine while the plane is already full of passengers cruising in midair. Yeah, we definitely want to avoid that. So here's our game plan for today. Think of this agenda as our architectural schematic. We'll quickly cover the deployment dilemma, break down the 5 decision pillars, apply them to a real-world scenario, crunch some deployment math, and finish up with the ultimate staged rollout strategy. All right, let's jump straight into part 1, the deployment dilemma, and how we actually escape the guesswork. We are officially moving away from just crossing our fingers and hoping for the best. Gut feelings? Great for picking lunch, terrible for launching immutable smart contracts. Now, as a quick recap of our previous lesson on the mainnet and Devnet environments. Devnet is your relaxed, stress-free developer sandbox. It's a playground with free airdropped tokens, super fast iterations, and hey, if you mess up, you just wipe the state and start over. No harm, no foul. Mainnet, on the flip side, is the live production environment. Real tokens carry real economic weight here. Transactions are final, and the state is persistent. Basically, if Devnet is your flight simulator, Mainnet is flying the actual commercial airliner. Moving right along to Section 2, the 5 decision pillars. This is where we stress test your app's deployment strategy. It's time to turn those qualitative fears into hard, quantitative engineering decisions. We need to reduce network selection down to strict load-bearing criteria. And the absolute most crucial point here? Economic sensitivity. You've got to ask yourself, are these transactions moving value that actually matters to users? Look, if your application has a bug on mainnet and risks irreversible financial harm, meaning real balances are exposed to real losses, then Devnet isn't just a suggestion, it's a required failsafe. You absolutely do not test economic assumptions with real money on day one. But hey, it's not just about the money, right? You have to weigh 4 other pillars to build a solid scoring template. First up, user safety. Can a weird bug completely ruin a user's account state? Then there's performance realism. Devnet is fantastic, but it doesn't always reflect the true, gritty congestion and fee pressure of mainnet. If you need hyper-accurate latency data, well, eventually you'll have to touch mainnet. Third, state permanence. Remember, Devnet can reset and just wipe your data clean. Fourth, third-party dependencies. Do you rely on live token mints or specific oracles that literally only exist on mainnet? And finally, cost. Let's be real, do you actually have to budget to pay for transaction fees and account rent during a massive testing phase, or is your app going to bankrupt you before it even officially launches?
All right, Section 3. Let's put this into practice with a real-world scenario application, the NFT Marketplace Beta.
Theory is great and all, but applying it, that's where you actually level up into a strong Web3 engineer. As you're diving deeper into your learning programs here at Forge College, you'll see that situational analysis is practically everything. So let's imagine you're launching a beta NFT marketplace for a small, dedicated community. Your goals? Validate the UI and UX, collect real feedback from users connecting their wallets, and test how your app handles realistic network fees. But you've got constraints, a super low testing budget, and you are not ready to let users trade their high-value blue-chip assets just yet. So where do you deploy? Let's consult the pillars.
Let's map this out. Because we want to avoid moving high-value assets, our economic sensitivity pillar practically screams Devnet using test tokens. To limit user exposure and, minimize reputational risk if something breaks, we stay on Devnet. To keep costs down for repeated tests, again, Devnet. We'll even mock our third-party dependencies just to stay safely in that sandbox. But wait, look closely at performance realism. To measure actual real-world fees, we actually recommend a limited mainnet pilot. See? This beautifully illustrates that deployment doesn't have to be binary. You can justify a really pragmatic, staged approach to your team, drawn up purely based on these 5 pillars. Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, crunching the deployment math and forecasting those fees. Because eventually, words in a table have to become numbers on a spreadsheet. Qualitative choices must be backed up by quantitative estimates. You can't just walk into a meeting and say, yeah, mainnet might be a bit pricey. You need to know exactly how pricey. Before you ever risk real funds, you can actually use a simple read-only RPC script to forecast your costs. Step 1. Connect your code to the RPC endpoint for your target cluster. Step 2. Request the recent block hash, which hands you the incredibly useful lamp ports per signature metric. And step 3. Just basic math. Multiply that per signature fee by your expected daily transaction volume, and then divide by 1 billion to convert those lamp ports into a human-readable SOL amount. Just like that, you aren't guessing anymore. You know exactly if your expected volume will blow your budget or if you're perfectly safe to proceed.
Finally, Section 5, the staged rollout strategy. Basically, the ultimate fail-safe. So if your costs are looking a bit high, or maybe your code is still a little green, you don't just close your eyes and jump into the deep end. You stage the rollout. This timeline right here, this is your master plan. It's the absolute gold standard for professional Web3 deployments. Phase 1 happens on Devnet. This is where you focus purely on user experience, catching those massive logic bugs and iterating rapidly with worthless airdrop tokens. Once you pass that gate, please don't just open the floodgates. You move to Phase 2, a highly focused mainnet pilot. This is a limited, tightly controlled test on the live network to gather real congestion data and verify that your third-party integrations actually work when real money is on the line. Only when that proves 100% stable do you proceed to Phase 3, the full mainnet ramp-up, opening your doors to live user funds and full public exposure. It completely minimizes the blast radius of any potential errors. So I'll leave you with this ultimate question to think about. Is your deployment blueprint ready to survive the blast radius of a live deployment? And honestly, more importantly, if a smart contract exploit does happen, do you have the incident response skills to stop it in its tracks? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Be sure to visit forge.college to master even more Web3 engineering strategies, access our in-depth courses, and ensure your next deployment is structurally sound right from the ground up. See you in the next one.